Well, good evening and welcome to the Raymore City Council regular meeting for Monday, January the 23rd, 2023. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for the roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Berenson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Forster.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Councilmember Wills.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. We have a quorum. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You got it pretty quick. You did good. Yeah. We have no presentations and awards this evening or personal appearances, so we'll move on to staff reports. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Krass to make a staff report for Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. In addition to my written report, I'm pleased to announce that Assistant City Engineer Trent Salisbury received notification last week that he passed the professional engineer's exam, so that is a significant milestone for his professional career. We are also anticipating some accumulating snow tomorrow that may impact the Wednesday morning commute, so just allow some extra time. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Krass. Any questions for Mr. Krass? Hearing none, Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Krass. I would ask Mr. Musteen to make a report for Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the council. I also submitted a written staff report, just a couple highlights. I want to congratulate our very own Todd Brennan. Our athletic coordinator is now promoted to our recreation and facilities superintendent. You're going to see his face here a few times in council as I'm requiring him to get some on-the-job education. So he'll be here for a few meetings. A couple other things. Our basketball league is mid-season, a few more weeks left to go on that. We are preparing for our Valentine's dance, our family Valentine's dance, the spring craft show, and our summer camp, surprisingly, is right around the corner, so we're working on that. And one more thing, I want to congratulate our park maintenance worker, Jacob Wicke. He passed his certified playground safety inspector, which is a pretty grueling test to know all the dimensions of every little piece of playground stuff. So really glad he got that and I didn't have to. That's pretty nice. But I am happy to answer any questions you have, and that concludes my staff report.
You have a ribbon cutting date yet set for the Hawk's Nest?
The Hawk's Nest, we are anticipating sometime in April, but we have to have several days, like 5 days of above 50-degree weather to pour the surfacing. Everything else will be ready to go so that when we have that weather break, we'll be able to pour it. We could push it, but there's no guarantee that the rubber is going to adhere, so we want to make sure that we do that right the first
I
time.
understand. No, it doesn't look like we're going to get that for a while.
It could be
It's
a
like
few
cold
more
weather
weeks,
is
that's
setting
right.
back in
I
next
know.
week. Yeah, okay. Anybody else have anything? Yes.
I had a question. I thought I saw that the replacement for the rec park is happening this summer.
Yes.
So do we have a time frame to kind of warn people so that way they stay away from that area, or is it going to be just a week where they just knock it out? I didn't know how long that would take, I guess.
You're talking the playground?
Yes.
Okay, so what we'll do is if it's approved tonight on the second read, we'll place the order for the equipment. That's really the lead time, what takes the longest is to get that equipment in. Once we know a delivery date on that equipment, we'll schedule the install, and then we'll work with Melissa and we'll advertise that. We're looking at probably late June by the time that's really all delivered, and we want to have everything here and then just get in and take a couple weeks and get it taken care of and open it. So that's basically.
Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While we're on the topic of Rec Park, can you give us a quick update on the status and possible completion date for the skate park?
For the skate park, we are working with the contractors on there. We had some issues that we're trying to iron out and take care of. So I can't give you a date on that yet, but we can report back to you once we've established a compromise on some things and make sure that we're all on the same page, and then we have a timeline of when that will be completed. But
It will
we'll
require
report
an
back to that.
executive session update, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. Thanks, Nathan.
Very good.
Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Musteen. I would ask Ms. Harmer to make a communications report this evening.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, I just want to talk about the public hearing, the risks of landfill development that we have coming up at Centerview at 6 p.m. on Thursday, February 16th. If you received the review, sorry, ugliest cover ever, but important. Back when I sent it to the printer at the very beginning of January, I was just sure that the 15th was the day, so that's what it says in there, but everything online and everything else we're pushing out now has the correct date of Thursday, February 16th, which, I mean, we had to change it. It was necessary to change it, so February 16th is the correct day, and we're inviting anyone who has concerns to attend this public hearing, voice your concerns about this project. Obviously, I think everybody knows what page we're on, but we do want to hear from our residents. And I would also like to thank our residents and also residents of Kansas City and the area surrounding the landfill and Lee Summit. A lot of people have jumped in and are fighting with us, and it's appreciated very much.
And in addition to that, we are going to extend the invitation to the city government of Kansas City, as well as some of our state legislators. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, and we'll have more information on that later once we hear back from them for their RSVPs.
Sure.
And that's all I have for you this evening.
Any questions of Melissa? Okay, thank you. Mr. Fearborn?
Thank you, Ms. Harmer. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a report on the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, just a couple updates here as we wrap up the draft stages of our plan. The comp plan team today met to discuss some final edits on the rough draft of the copy. And by that, I mean a really long Word document that we've typed up over the last couple of months. The next step that we're reviewing today is the RFQ that we intend to put out for a consultant to prepare the plan in terms of the final design and the procurement of all the related documents. And so our intention would be to put that out to bid in the next couple of weeks. Following that, we will work with that consultant, whoever we end up choosing, to review the contents of what staff has drafted on the creation of some images or diagrams, different, basically, images that will communicate some of the concepts that we're trying to portray in that plan, and they would carry us through the entire process from the current draft to the adoption, and so that would involve presenting that draft plan to the Park Board, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and eventually the City Council for their final hopeful adoption. But as I mentioned, we would intend to issue that RFQ probably mid-February, depending our final review. That would conclude my staff report.
Thank you, David. Any questions of Mr. Gress? Okay, thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Gress. I would ask the city clerk to make a brief statement to the council.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The January 9th minutes that were included in the council packet had an error in the last sentence of the staff reports. The corrected minutes have been distributed. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have those in front of us.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Just one last item for the council. Next week, we do have, it is the 5th Monday, but as we had informed the council, we do like to schedule those joint meetings on the 5th Monday. This one would be the Planning and Zoning Commission. There is a topic that we would like to bring to both of you, which is short-term rental housing. I know that's been an interest of the council's. And then a second item, just very briefly after that, it is time to, for the council to make a decision on if you want to renew Judge Nigro's contract. So I'll have some information for you on that just very, very briefly at the end of that. I do anticipate another executive session next week. That concludes staff reports this evening, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Fearborn? Okay, if that's all there is, we'll now move on to the consent agenda. Under tonight's consent agenda, we just have the one item, that's the City Council meeting minutes for January the 9th, 2023. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of that item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the consent agenda as distributed.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the meeting minutes as redistributed with the change. Any further discussion? Mr. Townsend.
Mr. Mayor, just clarification, this distributed version would also be available online? The corrected version will be posted online? Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Abdullah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to share that the evening of January 9th, I was at home sick and watched the meeting live, but didn't participate on Zoom, so I will vote on the minutes tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3772 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3772 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with AFCO for replacement of the 2 through 5-year-old recreation park playground.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the I'm sorry. Under new unfinished business?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I had my notations wrong on my sheet here.
Okay.
Unfinished business for Bill 3772, Recreation Park Replacement and Award of Contract.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3772. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3774 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3774 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving an agreement with the Mid-America Regional Council Solid Waste Management District relating to the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Program.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Krass to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. What you have before you this evening is our annual contract with Mark regarding the disposal of household hazardous waste materials. Upon approval of this contract, our residents are able to participate in the household hazardous waste drop-off events, also drop-off materials at the regional permanent facilities. Staff does recommend award of the approval of the contract. That concludes staff report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Krass? Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just curious, on the population estimates, I see that we're creeping up on Belton. How are those numbers tabulated for this particular project?
Not quite sure the question you're asking, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. This says that we are at 24,164 for 2021, and Belton is at 24,197. And just, we're in that friendly neighborly competition of population growth. I was just curious to understand how that's, how Mark, I guess, derives at that number.
I believe that they use, go ahead, Mr. Grass.
It would be, so the 2020 census was obviously published in 2020. Each year, the American Community Survey does population estimates, which is where that number was derived from Mark. That number is based on permitting data, various demographic information that they do surveys and estimates on.
I knew that 2021 was out. I just didn't know if they kind of estimates in that as it's titled, but just curious what metrics they were using. So thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Yes, Mr. Holman.
Just a clarification question. So according to the census estimate, we are now the largest city in Cass County. Is that correct?
I would say by way of the American Community Survey estimate. The census is more official because of the methodology they use to obtain that information. The ACS data, like I said, takes the census data as a base and uses other data sets to project what that population is estimated to be at this point, I guess, 3 years after or 2 years after the census was done. I guess I would concur with your statement that we are probably creeping up closer and closer to being the largest community in Cass County.
They're at least feeling our breath on the back of their neck. Yes, sir.
There you go. Anyone else? If there are no further questions of staff, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3774, Mark Household Hazardous Waste Agreement.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3774. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3775 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3775 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Edgewater at Creekmore 8th Plat, lots 230 through 241, and tracts K and L, located in Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Speaking of population growth, only fitting that we're reviewing 2 subdivision expansions. This evening, Cooper Land Development has requested the approval of the 8th phase, a continuation of the Edgewater at Creekmore subdivision. This is located generally between the Edgewater at Creekmore 7th plat, which is currently has housing under construction, and the Eastbrook 3rd plat to the east. The important thing about this segment in Creekmore is it does finally make the connection between Fox Ridge and Madison, so it provides a really nice east-west connection through that subdivision. It includes 11 residential lots and 2 common area tracts. At their January 17th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission did vote 9-0 to recommend approval of their application. Included within your packet is a copy of the development agreement, and that will conclude my staff report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? If there's no further questions of staff, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3775, Edgewater at Creekmore, 8th final plat.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3775. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3776 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3776 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Edgewater at Creekmore 9th plat, lots 242 through 252, and tracts M and N, located in Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am. Staff report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this adjoining item.
Thank you, sir. Similar to the previous request, Cooper Land Development has also requested approval of the 9th phase of the Edgewater at Creekmore subdivision, located directly to the east of the previous plat that we just discussed. And again, at their January 17th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission also voted 9-0 to recommend approval of this application. That concludes my staff report.
Will there be a 10th and final plat?
I believe within the Edgewater subdivision, there are 12 proposed plats. Not tonight, this evening, I'm sorry. Just in
right.
general, I think there are 12 phases of that
So
subdivision.
we'll see a little more come forward.
This, we're slowly meeting the Eastbrook portion of that subdivision, which is off of Madison, and then Edgewater and Westbrook, which is further to the west.
Gotcha.
So they're just meeting in the middle.
I got you. All right. Thank you, sir. Are there any questions of staff? If there are no questions of staff, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3776, Edgewater at Creekmore, 9th final plat.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3776. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Can I please have resolution read, the 23-03 by title only?
The reading of Resolution 23-03 by title only, and a resolution in support of the proposed Bella Terra residential subdivision abutting the corporate boundaries of the City of Raymore in Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, the request before you all this evening includes a request from Troy Bella, representing Bella Homes, is a proposed developer of the proposed Bella Terrace subdivision. To orient the council a little bit, is located directly south of Hebok Hill, to the east of the Tiffany Manor subdivision, to the very southeastern portion of the city limits. The property is located 100% within the county, with the exception of a segment of Hebok Hill Road. The city does own a portion of right-of-way along that stretch of roadway. Cass County Zoning Code Section 405020C provides adjoining municipalities within 1 and 1.5 mile an opportunity to review proposed developments within the county to ensure that those proposed developments are not in conflict with the growth plans of the cities that adjoin them. And so included in your packet was a copy of the subdivision plat that the developer hopes to pursue with the County Commission in February. The commission affords the city the opportunity to provide a written letter of support, provide written comments, or show up to the public hearing at their meeting. This particular location is directly adjacent to the city. The 3 to 5 acre lots would be consistent with the zoning for all of the properties within that area of the city. And as I noted in the attached letter, the lack of sewer facilities in that area makes this property and this development suitable for on-site sewage disposal systems, septic systems. So in that case, staff has elected not to attend that meeting and in place of that seek a letter of support from the City Council. Mr. Bella is in the audience this evening if you have any questions, but as indicated, Resolution 2303 simply indicates the city's support for this project and that it doesn't conflict with any future growth plans for the city. That would conclude my staff report.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions of staff? Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you, sir. I just had a quick question. So Hubach Hill's on the north side. Does it go all the way south to what cross street?
I want to say that it's 205th Street that's at the very southern boundary, and this subdivision would propose a north-south connection between Hubach and that southern boundary.
205th?
I believe it's 205th.
Thank you.
Mr. Bella, would you want to clarify?
I think it's 195th, isn't that South Street? Yes.
195th.
You are
Okay.
correct. It is 195th.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Forster.
I love the idea of the size of the lots, by the way. Like, I'll just go ahead and throw that out. But my question is, if we do the letter of support, is it just for this specific layout, or is it just in general that we support a subdivision going there in the future?
I will let Mr. Bella clarify any changes that may be made to the application. The letter that is written is in response to their initial concept that they proposed at the county. I would assume that if that plan were to change substantially, the city would be re-notified of that. I'm not 100% sure how the county addresses subdivision platting like that of the city, but it would be my best guess that if this were to change substantially, the city would be re-notified of that in the future.
Mr. Bella, would you care to respond to that question? Yeah, please come step forward to the microphone. Erica, is it on?
The preliminary plat that you see before you is around.
If you could, please step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Troy Bella, 1248 Southwest Wisteria Drive, Lee Summit.
Thank you, sir.
The preliminary plat you have is for 50 lots, and it is designed for ranchette, what we call ranchette subdivision, 3, 4, and 5 acre lots. So basically, Cass County, we go to their planning commission meeting February 13th, and they require a letter from the city of Raymore blessing what we're trying to do here. Because there's no sewer there, we have to go pretty much ranchette lots.
Sure.
So.
All right, thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bella? Yes, Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support your development, and I think it's great also that we have 3 to 5 acre lots that close to the city. I know there certainly is a big demand for that. My question is, and this is just a curiosity, so there's no sewer service there. Did you guys already do a perk test? Will these be open sewers, or
They
will
don't
you
do perk
get?
tests anymore. They call it something else, but we've already done the soils testing. That's
Okay.
already gone to DNR. We've already got that approved.
And so they will be able to put in actual
Low pressure systems.
low pressure and not potty ponds?
Drip systems, yes.
Okay.
That's already been approved by the DNR.
I live less than a mile away, and I was not allowed to do that, so I was just curious.
Yeah,
So.
we've done all the soils testing.
All right, well, glad you guys got that approved. Thanks again for entertaining our questions.
You bet.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have anything? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Anybody else have any questions for staff? Mr. Holman.
Yes, sir. I would like to know does the city have the ability currently, if it were requested and this subdivision were be within the city, to provide sewer to that location? How difficult would it be? My question comes on the thought of, this is right on our southern boundary. We're a growing city. Should this subdivision decide to opt in to be annexed into the city at some point, what future engineering needs would be need to be met for this subdivision to come up to city code?
Mr. Krass?
Actually, when we looked at this, it is not cost effective to sewer this area. It actually, that area generally drains south, which is away from any of our sewer facilities. It would be extremely expensive to sewer that portion of what used to be our annexation areas.
Anyone
you.
else have any further questions? If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend,
I move that we approve Resolution 23-03, support for proposed Bella Terra subdivision in Cass County, Missouri.
thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve Resolution 23-03. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Move on to the last item under new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3778 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3778 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Missouri Capital Solutions, LLC, in the amount of $65,000 for consulting services related to the threatened landfill development, and due to the need to begin this work immediately, the mayor declares this as an emergency.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff, in consultation with the council, has identified 3 areas for engagement with outside firms related to the threatened landfill on our northern border, including public relations, legal representation, and legislative consulting. The council has previously engaged for public relations and legal representation. This is to bring on Missouri Capital Solutions, LLC, after a review of potential firms to perform these lobbying efforts for the city. We determined them to be the best partner for these specialized legislative consulting services, and they have indicated a willingness to work with the city of Raymore because obviously the legislative agendas are already being set. We are asking the council, and the mayor is asking the council for an emergency read on this particular piece of legislation. That concludes staff report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? If not, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of the first reading of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend,
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3778, award of contract for Missouri Capital Solutions.
thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I will second this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3778. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Since this has been deemed to be an emergency ordinance, I would ask for a second reading in full.
The second reading of Bill 3778 in its entirety, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Missouri Capital Solutions, LLC, in the amount of $65,000 for consulting services related to the threatened landfill development, and due to the need to begin this work immediately, the mayor declares this as an emergency. Whereas the City of Raymore has learned of the potential of a solid waste landfill development directly abutting Raymore's north border, located in southeast Kansas City, Missouri, between 155th Street and 150 Highway. And whereas staff, in consultation with the mayor and city council, have identified 3 areas for engagement with outside firms related to this potential landfill development, including public relations, legal representation, and legislative consulting. And whereas, following a review of potential firms to perform this work, Missouri Capital Solutions, LLC, has been determined to be the best partner for these specialized consulting services and has indicated a willingness to work with the City of Raymore. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Council of the City of Raymore, Missouri, as follows. Section 1, the city manager is hereby authorized to enter into a contract with Missouri Capital Solutions, LLC, to provide legal services for the city, attached as Exhibit A. Section 2, the city manager and the city clerk are authorized to enforce the contract and make changes within budget constraints. Section 3, effective date. The effective date of approval of this ordinance shall be coincidental with the mayor's signature and attestation by the city clerk. Section 4, severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, phrase, or portion of this ordinance is for any reason held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision, and such holding shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions thereof. Section 5, emergency reading. Due to the need to contract these services as soon as possible, the mayor has authorized this as an emergency reading. Duly read this first time, this 23rd day of January 2023. Be it remembered that the above ordinance was approved and adopted this 23rd day of January 2023 by the following vote.
Thank you, ma'am. If there's no further questions of staff, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3778, award of contract Missouri Capital Solutions.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3778. Is there any further discussion? I would like to say that on this particular item, this will last through the entirety of this session of the House and Senate, and is a one-time fee for this organization. And I have looked at them, into them myself, and worked with them previously in the past through the Little Blue Valley Sewer District, and they're very good at what they do. So I just wanted to put that out there. If there's no further questions, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Now move on to public comments. If anyone from the public would like to address the council this evening, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. I see no one coming forward, so I'll close the public comments and move on to the mayor-council communication, and I'll start with Ms. Forster this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two quick things. I just want to give Melissa kudos for all the communication with the landfill, and especially on Facebook, especially when you're posting stuff out there, people are just responding, and you seem to be responding very quickly. So I just want to say thank you. You're making our job a lot easier. And also to remind everyone that February 5th is when the rink is the last day for the rink being open. So I know a lot of people have been enjoying it, and I just kind of wanted to give them that heads up that get out there before it's gone. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wills.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to congratulate Mr. Salisbury, Mr. Brennan, and Mr. Wicki on the milestones that they have achieved in their careers recently. I also wanted to remind and encourage participation in the public hearing for the landfill on Thursday, February 16th. Make sure to invite your friends, your neighbors. Let's make sure that everyone stays educated and motivated about this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You throw me
Moving
off.
around tonight.
Yes, you are.
Moving it around.
Yes, I would like to echo the comments of my council colleagues, and kudos to the staff for their professional education and exams and continuing on with the city with respect to those particular areas, and also for everyone engaged and in wanting to come out to the public hearing on the 16th of February at 6 p.m. Make the time, have your comments prepared, and to give us as much information as you can. We're there as long as you are. I believe that's the sentiment for the council, so that we can hear, record, and that those who are putting forth this effort hear as a resounding message from the city and the residents. So we're looking forward to see you there that night. The mic is yours that evening, so hopefully we can get as many as possible on that evening. So thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Abdulgawad.
Thank you, sir. I concur with previous comments and won't take any more time.
All
Thanks.
right, well, thank you. Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've also crossed through all my notes as they've all been mentioned, and will agree with my my colleagues. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I let Mr. Gress's comments on our current estimate on our population flow over me, I will yield the rest of my time.
Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Normally when I get to talk after Mr. Holman, it's like, there's no comparison, so kind of threw me off there. First of all, I wanted to really tell staff how much I appreciate the investment that we do with our employees at the City of Raymore, what they do with themselves. And it's good to hear. I didn't get to write specifically who, but I know in your department, Mr. Kratz, you had somebody in the Parks and Rec also. I studied a CEO years ago, Jack Welch. I really appreciate how he ran a company. And when it came to developing people, he had one of his underlings make a comment. He says, what if we train our folks and they leave? And Jack Welch made the comment, I'm more afraid if we don't train them and they stay. So I think it's important for us to keep that going, and I think it helps our city and it keeps our city doing the things that our citizens appreciate and need and want. Also want to make a comment about our city to the west of us, east of us, excuse me, Lee Summit, Missouri. They joined the fight with us, and that was big. I got more comments this last weekend because Lee Summit finally recognized that we are in a fight, and this fight is real, and we're all in it together, and we've got a common enemy. So, again, I want to appreciate the City Council, city leaders, and staff at Lee Summit, Missouri. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to welcome Johnny's Tavern to Raymore. I think a lot of people got a chance to enjoy some of their gatherings last weekend, and so that's a new welcome addition. Wanted to personally thank somebody. I haven't talked to this person personally in a couple years, but they used to live at Silver Lake. Real good friend. Our daughters were in Cub Scout, or not Cub Scouts, Girl Brownies, and I can't remember the different levels of Girl Scouting. But anyway, we've known this family for a long time, and if you've watched the news lately, you've seen her on TV, Sarah Thompson. She has pretty much been the private, I think, face of this fight for the landfill. She, I talked to her, I don't know, she started asking me about what I do for the city when I was running in 2020, and I, was telling her some of the things that we do, and she was like, I didn't realize, some of the things that we do. And so I would think that she will get more active in the future, but I really appreciate her efforts. And also go Chiefs.
There you go. Well, thank you all. Great comments all. I would like to reiterate what Mr. Barber said and thank the city of Lee Summit, Mayor Baird and his team for seeing the importance of joining in our efforts to combat the installation of a landfill on our front doorstep. It's their front doorstep as well. And I was talking to an individual today that hadn't really looked at that area or paid attention to the growth that's going on around it. He said, well, I looked at an overhead satellite view of that, and it looks like it's pretty sparsely populated. And I go, really? Have you even driven that area? The encroachment of development from all three communities, Grandview, Raymore, Lee Summit, continues to come toward that focal point where they're wanting to put in a landfill. And I couldn't believe he made those points. And when I asked him to look at the development in close proximity, he goes, oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. Because Lee Summit is constantly building new developments coming this way. We're expanding the size of Creekmore. Grandview is still working on a huge mixed-use project that Duran Cherry has breathed new life into for a commercial development of homes and a sports complex. And that is moving this direction from Grandview. So it really is in a totally inadequate location. I don't even know why they even thought to even think about putting something there like that. So hopefully the people that are considering that will come to their senses, and we can all come together and talk a little bit more about it. I'm still very disappointed in Kansas City. I continue to get emails forwarded to me from residents who've reached out to them, and they're saying, well, we don't know anything about it. And we sent them a copy of our resolution, certified mail, 3 weeks ago, and they're still acting like they haven't heard anything about it. It's just very disappointing. So I'm hoping that cooler heads will prevail and we can move forward in a fashion where all the communities can get along just fine. With that, I will close my comments, and I would entertain a motion as we have to go into executive session this evening.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Townsend.
Move that the Raymore City Council move into executive session to discuss litigation and personnel matters as authorized by revised Missouri Statute 610.021, subparagraph 1 and subparagraph 3.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to move into executive session. Could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Berenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Forster?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Townsend?
Yes.
Councilmember Wills?
Yes.
We will now move into executive session, and when we're done